Ego sum resurrectio et vita, qui credit in me, et siam si mortuus fuerit vivit, et omnes qui vivit et credit in me, non moriet ut in aeternum. In the first reading, my friends, St. Paul, writing to the Galatians, invites us not to grow weary of well-doing while we yet have time. In the case of the Gospel, apparently there was no more time. The innings was up, and the Lord saw the consequences and felt compassion. I was standing at the point where that happened only a few months ago. It's not far from Capharnaum. And there, if one looks up to the skies, one sees what the Lord would have seen. Often in these cosmic miracles, which actually trouble the order of nature, he looks up. We will repeat that gesture in a few minutes' time, when the priest looks up to that same power and invokes it at the altar. Power. When a soul finally is calmed and the turbulence of life is over, that soul is faced with power. Those who have had an experience of death, an operation for instance, will tell you that at the point of departure from the body, the soul is made extremely receptive and perceptive. It acquires powers it never had or never knew it had. The reason being that it perceives no longer via anything, via the senses. Neither is there any distraction anymore. The soul knows and sees, and there is no more possible illusion. Indeed, some of the most remarkable accounts of souls who have gone and come back through medical skill are those most carefully monitored by science. Pamela Reynolds is a good case, for they had to induce brain death so as to operate behind the brain on a lethal aneurysm. And therefore all the blood was drained from the brain, and it was only when the brain was completely dead that they were able to operate. And as her soul from above looked down, she could hear the conversation going on amongst the surgeons. She also went further and went beyond. But there are other cases even more startling, and it is, for instance, those who have been recalled, but in this life had no senses, the blind. They, throughout life, had been living in darkness and had not seen anything. And these, as soon as they are separated from the body, see for the first time, not with the eyes which they never had, but with the eyes of the soul. Indeed, not that long ago, I was called to anoint a girl who had no eyes. She was very severely handicapped mentally. She was an angel uncontaminated. The parents detected that she was going down, and they called me urgently, and shortly afterwards she petered out, and I am sure was given eyes for the first time. Now, with regard to this issue, it's something which Old Nick is aware of. I was talking to a young person this week who was commenting on how, in a certain occasion, while awaiting something, with other people, that person was there and they were all waiting for this to start. And this person commented, and yet there was no communication. Each one was in his own sphere of communication with absent bodies via a gadget. And this reflection was made at that conversation that actually reflects life at present. People are completely absorbed by virtual reality. Now, Old Nick knows the great advantage of that. This week also I listened to somebody saying how a person had asked advice with regard to a question of relationship. And because asked, this person had calmly replied that the relationship in question was not regular, not in order. And immediately there was a huge emission of aggression and an increase of volume in the conversation. And while listening to the description of what followed, I thought to myself, that is interesting. People need to block out certain things. So what do? They create a huge, loud, obscure, impenetrable barrage, lest any new truth come through. If you find yourself in a conversation of that nature, don't lose your peace over it. It's not the time. There's not much you can do. If one observes the way in which this weekend is being spent by the average young person, one will see that there is something also of that happening in the recreative field. They are, in their moments of détente, being exposed to things which make it impossible for them to have interiority, an interior life, independence. The disco of our time is by now a place where a person is vegetating mentally. A person who willingly exposes himself to several hours of extremely heavy bombardment of the ear and mind is damaging himself psychologically and weakening his interior life. He is also weakening his academic life because it is very difficult to settle to simple sounds on the sheet of a page after heavy bombardment of the interior senses. It is all one. But there is more. What Old Nick is very good at is making sure that that pattern repeats itself on a daily basis, and indeed in every hour of the day, so that right now the average young person is brought into an existence where there will be no interiority. Just the other day, I heard of a lassie of 23 who, before the results came out, opted for suicide. And I thought to myself, that is interesting, that the immediate of success or its opposite is more important than any thought for success in the terms of eternity. Not that I judge that person, but it's the norm in the air. The suicide alternative is taught on internet. The do-it-yourself is there. Now, what is happening is this, my friends. It's only a short time since basically in Ireland, the big question henceforth is not being faced. In one passage of Newman, we have in his discussion of what a university is, this comparison. Look at the reflection of the sky or the trees in a calm lake. A calm lake. Even though you cannot see them, you are given proof that they are there. Make the lake turbulent and you will not see them. It's exactly what's happening to the soul. Turbulence, turbulence, lest they see. In France in the early 80s, I came across two manuscripts and I translated them. One was this, the Hell manuscript, the letter from Hell, and the other was the Purgatory manuscript. The Purgatory one is very long because it lasted many years, about nearly 20, while a nun was doing penance for another one in Purgatory. This one is shorter and more frightening, and it's extremely modern. The person in question was in a car accident. Her friend, who later under shock became a nun and died very young, had warned her, and she each time did precisely what I've described, put up a huge barrage and started to poke fun at her. Even one time lit a match under her nose and said, "Does that burn like hell?" In the end, she was lost. Her friend was praying for her, and this message came back: "Stop praying for me. I'm lost."
Maureen, a little child that never saw. Sweet face that hid a world that never saw another face on earth. Sweet little child that womanhood ne'er saw, march on before the great of all the earth, and gazing mild, look now not at the dark that marked the all that was seen hitherto, but at the whole that some with eyes o'erused did rate too small among the things that matter. Fly, hid soul, that mattered unto one, where matter is no more the matter that bears weight. For weight upon the soul is not by limelight beamed, but it is his to light a little star that ne'er had shone. Fly, little one, and open thy new eyes upon the face that made thee paradise.
O thing, O thing that has no name, O mystery beyond the yonder land, where all is well, or not so well, where ancient history is long in its unwriting. Heaven and hell upon a moment pending, bending all in calling will that still could turn the tide of aeons ere they came and ere went on upon a traced course, high bound and tied unto a distant second, ever gone. O thing without a name, whose fame is bright in regions where no sight may penetrate. I spent some moons a-roving in thy light, unveiled and hailed afar, for at this gate, upon a manuscript, I pored a while, and heard a noised land, where demons smile.